Hello and welcome to Teesside News, with me, Kristen Higginson and Jack Gaskarth. Coming up in today's show.
What does Middlesbrough think of Donald Trump? With the US presidential elections getting underway, we find out what Middlesbrough has to say, and we also have a special guest here in the studio to tell us more.
It's that time of year again, when Teesside University invites students to run in the university elections. The question is, who's running and what are the roles up for grabs? We'll find out more with Welfare Officer Manon Gottschall.
And Holocaust Memorial Day this year was concluded here at Teesside University with the extraordinary story of survivor Hanny Begg and 4 students who spent the last year documenting her fascinating life experiences.
We find out what it's like to be a modern-day missionary in the Philippines.
And in sport, we have a 60-second roundup with sports correspondent Sammy Watson.
And finally, Northern Soul is back. Teesside reporter Jodie Lightfoot explores how Northern Soul has spent the last couple of decades in hiding, but the soul movement has recently made an inspiring comeback. Welcome to Teesside News. Today's top story.
Donald Trump has been in the spotlight recently as the US multi-billionaire tycoon is hoping to become the next US president. Elections are usually about hope for the future, but in the case of Donald Trump, creating fear amongst the American voters seems to be an important part of his campaign.
His rallies combine racism, sexism and right-wing extremism. Donald Trump wants to ban Muslims from the United States and stop Mexicans entering America by building a wall across the border. Teesside reporters Eleanor Anderson and Melissa Major went to find out what Middlesbrough thinks of Donald Trump.
In case you don't know who Donald Trump is, he's running for president in America. So, let's see what everyone had to say.
I don't think he's a particularly nice person and I don't think he should be running for president. So he's got quite a good chance of winning, which is not necessarily good.
He seems to have a lot of bad negative portrayals about women, even though he's constantly trying to remind the public that he's all for everybody. It seems that his actual policies don't adhere to that view.
He must be a joke because there's no way someone can think all that and be serious. Yeah, there's no way he can possibly be a serious contender with the things he's saying. He's just a doll.
Man ranting really, and it's just best to just kind of ignore him really. Just think there's no point giving him attention.
I think that his policies are rather ill-conceived. I think that he is clearly causing a lot of controversy in the States at the minute with the presidential election. I personally don't think that he is a credible candidate, but my worry is that for many Americans he may well be.
So we're joined in the studio now by Middlesbrough councillor and third-year history student Jordan Blythe, who's here to talk about how Trump is performing in the elections. Jordan, welcome.
Thank you, it's great to be here, guys.
How are you doing, Jordan?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, we're good.
Good.
So, do Donald Trump extremist views explain his success?
I think in part they do. What we have to understand is that at the moment Donald Trump's not trying to appeal to every American, he's only trying to appeal to Republican voters at this point to be selected as a Republican candidate. So he's saying things that that would appeal to that group. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that every Republican voter has views as extreme as Trump's. However, what he is doing is he's saying things that no politician would be caught dead saying. He's saying things that no spin doctor would ever allow you to say. So he looks more authentic, and people feel as though he looks more authentic as a result. In addition, because he's such a wealthy man, he's a billionaire, as we know. There is an opinion in America that he cannot be bought, that big money Wall Street banks can't bribe him to make decisions. He is so rich that he doesn't need it, so he can do whatever he wants. So I think that's one of the things that possibly helps to explain that.
But what do you think of his views? What's your opinion on his views? Do you think they're too extreme, or do you think...
Personally, I think that an awful lot of his views are utterly abhorrent. I think that building a massive wall to Mexico isn't going to fix America's immigration problem. What will fix it is sorting out a broken immigration system. I think that his statements about Muslims and Islam and minorities are again frankly disgusting. I think that it's simply scapegoating a whole group of people for political gain essentially, and exploiting people's fears, and I think that's absolutely reprehensible.
How does it appeal to a younger audience, both in America and over here as well?
Well, I think that with Trump at the moment, he's trying to appeal to Republicans who are far more likely to be older, whiter, Protestant, rural voters. Democrats are more likely to be younger, from minorities, non-Protestants or even atheists, women, for instance, are more likely to be Democrats. So he's not currently attempting to appeal to young people. I think the reason he could appeal to young people is because he doesn't seem like every other candidate. Okay, sure, he's an ageing white man with a lot of money, and that sounds like an awful lot of establishment politicians, but he says things that no establishment politician ever would. And I think that's quite possibly why he would appeal to people, in the same way as in France, Marine Le Pen appeals to people by saying things that no one else would. In this country, until recently, Nigel Farage appealed to a lot of people by saying things that no one else would. So I think that sort of anti-establishment sort of rhetoric and appeal does tend to help Donald Trump.
Okay, so I want to talk a bit about you
Okay.
right now, if that's okay. So you're pretty established in Middlesbrough, so how are you helping improve young people's participation in voting?
Well, shortly after I was elected in May, I was asked by the Mayor to look into this. As many people know, the turnout for young people in elections is significantly lower than their older counterparts. And we thought that this simply isn't right, something should be done about it. So we've started looking into why this might be and things that we can do, and we've decided that civic engagement, democracy, politics all has to take place from a younger age. Think back to when you guys were at schools about the same time as me. How many people mentioned voting? How many people mentioned elections? Did you know what a political party was? These ideas didn't really happen. In fact, in the schools I went to, there wasn't even so much as a school council or any sort of voting within it.
I mean, it's not talked about, is it?
No, so that's one of the things we want to launch, is we want to see a school council in every school in Middlesbrough. We want to see a youth council for every school in Middlesbrough to be elected across Middlesbrough. We want to see young people taking these decisions for themselves and influencing council policy. And we want to essentially extend democracy, voting, political participation to every single part of life that we can, in order to try and make a more democratic society and hopefully get people more involved.
So how do you think this will benefit the younger generation then?
I think that it gives people more of a say. We currently, it's been noted that at the moment the Conservative Party tries to appeal to older voters, the silver vote if you like. They try to appeal to them by saying things like, we'll protect your pensions. Policies have been focus grouped that older voters like, and at the same time also do things such as trebling tuition fees, raising the cap on tuition fees. That £9,000 limit isn't gone now. That will be abolished. Your fees can continue to rise again and again and again. Things like this. So they are more than happy to do things like this because younger people don't vote, they can't suffer, they can't be booted out of office by it. It's not their problem. They only need enough people to vote for them to keep them in office. So I think that what this does is, by more young people voting, it gives them more of a voice, and hopefully will stop these things from happening to them.
It's been great having you in the studio today. Thank you very much for coming in, Jordan. Every year, hundreds of new student hopefuls join the quest to become the next student union officer. But what are the student elections, and how do we know who to vote for? Rebecca Connolly met Manon Gottschall, Teesside University's welfare officer, to find out more.
Every year we've got elections to elect students to become the voice of the Students' Union and the voice of the students. So we've got 4 roles for grabs. We've got the president, who deals with student experience. We've got vice president activities, who deals with club and societies and volunteering. We've got vice president education, who deals with the academic side. And we've got vice president welfare, who deals with the well-being of students and the issues around it. Anyone can go for this position. It doesn't matter if you're a mature student, if you're an international student, if you're younger, if you're part-time, full-time, doing a master's. Anyone could go for the elections. There's no type of selections for it. All you need to do is really bring your pack in, which is you need to bring your nominations before the 12th of this month, so next Friday, and just say that you want to go for the elections, and that's it really. So it is really important, because at the end of the day, you're the one paying to come to university. You want to have the best experience here, but sometimes you need that kind of a bit of help, and that's what we're here for. We're trying to help all the students as much as we can in different areas, and you want to have the best possible time. So definitely is very, very important, and I always urge students to run for the elections. And even if you're not too sure what the role's about, or am I going to be good for this role, you get all the training over the summer, you get a lot of support during your time as an officer. I've been an officer for 2 years, and I've had the best experience ever, and the training I've had, and it's just really, really good. and plus it helps you with your skills along the way. It is really, really popular. I mean, there's different things going on, so from now to the 12th, like I said, it's the nominations open, so you can pick up a pack and say you want to go for the nomination. Then there's a bit of a gap just to let students kind of go back to their studies, because it's still important for them to finish their studies. And then you've got the whole process of voting week, which voting week is 1 week and it's in March, and if I'm correct, it's the week of the 7th of March, so coming up to the 11th. And that's just the biggest week. It's manic. You've got students running around asking for people to vote for them, talking about their manifestos, putting posters, banners, T-shirts, you know, lollipop sticks, whatever you want. And it just gives quite a good hype, and students get quite excited about voting week because you get to know what's going on, why should they vote for this sort of person going for this role. So it's always been my favourite time of the year, to be fair.
January 27th is Holocaust Memorial Day, a day when a series of commemorative events take place throughout the world in memory of the Holocaust of the Second World War.
Teesside University organises the largest event of its kind in the north of England. This year, Holocaust survivor Hanny Begg told her extraordinary story that featured in a documentary for the first time, revealed her wartime experience over 70 years ago.
When the Gestapo came in 1943, they just took everything that we had. We lived in a flat, as you did, in the center of Berlin, an apartment. And when I came back from school that day, it was all sealed, and neighbors in the house told me that I must go away because the Gestapo were waiting for me. Mm-hmm. And so I never had the chance to get anything, any belongings. It was all gone. It's only the memories, and that's getting a bit shorter.
It's nice to share your memories though, because in 2015 now you're like the living witness, and you're the surviving memory, aren't you?
Yes, and of course then I suppose when my generation goes, which we must do sooner or later, then yes, I think I said to you before that I never wanted to or could talk about it for many reasons. Mostly I wanted to protect my family. I didn't want them to have any baggage to carry. I wanted them to grow up normally. And I could obviously never have gone into a household or onto a farm. Nobody would have accepted me. I couldn't have done that, but she would, and that was very brave. She lived in a flat at the top of the hospital, and I personally looked after her. She daren't let me go anywhere else in case somebody became suspicious who I was. That's where I stayed until the end of the war. Suddenly somebody came to the hospital and gave me a piece of paper, and on it there was an address in Berlin, in another part of Berlin, where my father was living. He was in a partly bombed out house, and then of course he contracted TB, couldn't go to a doctor of course because officially he didn't exist. So basically when I discovered him in 1945, he was dying. And my father made absolutely sure that he survived until the last shooting had stopped in Berlin, which was the 9th of May, where we were in Berlin, in the center of Berlin, and then he died. And well, that was the end of the war, and that's when I had to bury my father. We were sent to Scotland. I wanted to go to Israel because to me the concept of a home country for the Jews was very important indeed. I fell in love and met my future husband, and I stayed here. I came in 1949 and I met my husband in 1950. My husband got a job as a general practitioner in Gisborne, yes, where he worked for over 30 years.
That report was from Rebecca Connolly.
Now, 5 years ago, 2 missionaries from Teesside relocated to the Philippines, where they have brought up their 3 children. Ruth and Andrew Newlove were joined by a group of women from the Amazing Grace Church based in Teesside, who volunteered to teach as modern-day missionaries. Teesside reporter Hannah Dodsworth travelled with them and has this report from the Philippines.
Travelling thousands of miles from Middlesbrough and arriving at Manila 32 hours later, what is it that drives Christians to the mission field? To then hop on a bus to a small barangay village back at Norton, being literally in the heart of the Philippines, no tourism, no Western people, welcome to the Philippines.
As a group, we went to stay, one of the ladies that went with us, her daughter and son-in-law lived there with their 3 girls, and they're classed, I suppose, as permanent missionaries there at the moment. So we went to help them with the work that they're doing there. They help to run a small church which is mainly full of teenagers, boys and girls. And we went to help them in their work there and just to bless those young people and to pray with them and to teach them stuff. But we also did a ladies' conference there for 2 days where it was very, very set. What we got planned there was, it was going to be called Band of Sisters Ladies Conference, and invites had already been sent out ahead of time to ladies across that area of the Philippines, inviting them to come to this ladies conference. Ruth and Andrew, who were the missionaries who currently live there, they'd come to visit our church, and they were telling us about a young lad called Janelle that they'd basically adopted into their family. He'd had a very, very bad childhood and been rejected by his family and hadn't had any education and, you know, really needed looking after, and so they took him in to their house and started looking after him and sending him to school as well. You know, as a family, we'd been sponsoring him for about 3 years, and then when we actually went to the Philippines, we were able to meet him. I would love to go there again. Before leaving, I think I realised that if I ever got called to be somewhere like that now, long term, to live there, I felt like, yes, I could do that now. I felt like it's just opened up, you know, so many more opportunities for my future. So I'm looking forward to how that pans out.
And now we have sports correspondent Sammy Watson with a 60-second sport update.
Thank you, Jack. In what is their 140th year since the club was founded, January has been a month of mixed emotions for Middlesbrough Football Club. They lost 3 out of their 5 matches in their start to 2016, including an early exit in the FA Cup to fellow Championship side Burnley. They did, however, manage to gain 3 valuable points against potential Premiership candidates Derby County, which has kept Middlesbrough at the forefront of promotional hopefuls. Middlesbrough are now just 1 point behind league leaders Hull with a game in hand. Meanwhile, fresh from picking up 3 prizes at the FA Women's Football Awards last month, Teesside University student Beth Mead will be once again playing for Sunderland Ladies this season. Their fixture list has recently been released and they'll be playing League newcomers Reading on March 26th. Be sure to keep up to date with sports news and fixtures here at Teesside University on the teesside.co.uk website.
Over the last few years, Northern Soul has resurfaced, bringing its fast tempo sound and soulful vocals along with it. For anyone not in the know, soul music was played in underground clubs in northern England in the 1960s and soon became known as Northern Soul.
Teesside has a thriving club scene, as Jodie Lightfoot found out when she spent an evening out in Middlesbrough.
Soul music played in underground clubs in northern England in the 60s. This soon became known as Northern Soul and quickly spread across the UK. While many thought the movement had come to a halt over 30 years ago, it simply went back to the underground to where it began. However, over the past several years, Northern Soul has been gaining more and more momentum yet again.
I started Northern Soul when I was about 13 with a little mod. I used to hang around with all the little mods in Eston, and we'd go to the youth club and listen to Motown and stuff. So I went from Motown, and then when I was 15 I started going to scooter rallies, and then the rallies was like a big Northern Soul scene, so that's probably how I first got into it. I think the new film that's come out, the Northern Soul movie, I think that's got young people into Northern Soul now. But a lot of young people, it's kind of been in their history because the parents have been into it, so they've started getting into it now, and now they're old enough to come out drinking and stuff, they come.
I've always liked Northern Soul. It was always played in my house growing up. My mum and dad liked a lot of 1960s bands like The Who, The Kinks, and I think I got into it from that. I've had a lot of influence from my mum and dad.
Jane, her husband Tim, and 2 of their friends run a bi-monthly soul night in Redcar called the Soul Station.
The Soul Station's a night full of like northern soul, R&B and 60s soul, and we like to pride ourselves on playing just vinyl. The Soul Station first anniversary is on the 12th of March, so we're hoping that it's going to be a cracker, starting at 7 and it finishes at 2, and throughout the night it'll just be all vinyl, 60s, northern soul, R&B and Motown. So hopefully it's going to be a really good event. And we also had a really good group of young people that come. Some of them, the parents are into Northern Soul, but a lot of them just come because they've just like got into it recently and they are so energetic with the dancing.
Whatever the reason is for young people becoming involved in the Northern Soul scene, it's clear that Northern Soul is popular once again.
We hope you all enjoyed the show, and that's all from us at Teesside News.
If you'd like to find out more about journalism at Teesside, visit our website teesside.co.uk for all the news from in and around Middlesbrough.